Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into, well, a truly mind-bending stack of sources that challenge pretty much everything you thought you knew about reality.
Mm.
We're talking about things like invisible predators, how our minds might be playing tricks on us, and this really profound concept called inner silence.
It's definitely an in-depth exploration, isn't it? We're looking into the very layers of perception, and what
Wow.
truly influences our day-to-day experience. You've given us some fascinating material here from a webinar, I think, discussing concepts like grooves of time and these entities called flyers, drawing on some pretty esoteric traditions.
Exactly. And our mission today is really to unpack these ideas, try to distill the essential insights, maybe the nuggets, and help you understand how these, well, seemingly abstract concepts might actually shed some new light on your own awareness and maybe your freedom.
Right.
Okay, so let's dive right in. Let's unpack this first major concept from the sources, this idea of flyers.
Okay.
Our sources introduce us to these flyers. They're described as what aware energy entities.
Yeah, aware energy. And crucially, their goals are apparently completely different from ours, from human goals. It's quite a claim to start with.
It really is.
What's really fascinating here, though, is the assertion that we basically live in a world of predators.
Hmm.
And these flyers, they're involved in shaping our reality,
Uh,
specifically, the source says, by constantly cutting our freely moving energy.
Cutting our energy.
Yes, and helping to create these spinning habits or vortices within our energy cocoons, the sort of personal energetic fields that supposedly surround us.
Wow. Okay, so these aren't just like external forces pushing on us, but something that actually gets woven into our energetic makeup. That's kind of wild.
That's the idea.
Does the source give any insight into how that weaving happens? Or maybe how it shows up for us, like day to day, beyond just cutting energy?
Well, the primary way it shows up, according to this material, is that these energetic cuts contribute to really deeply ingrained patterns, habits, emotional responses.
Hmm.
So the key insight there is that maybe our very habits, our emotional patterns, might not be entirely ours.
Right.
They could be, in a way, an energetic programming that's imposed on us. It suggests the source of some of our inner struggles could actually be these external, yet somehow interwoven influences.
That puts a whole different spin on things.
It does. And a crucial step, then, in confronting these ideas, according to the source, is to stop the internal dialogue.
That endless chatter in our heads.
Exactly. And the source really emphasizes the immense difficulty of this. Even when you try to force silence, it's like this endless deceptive whisper that tries to convince you that you are silent when you're not.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It highlights just how deep that internal chatter goes, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And the speaker in your source, they actually tried an exercise, right? Imagining wipers clearing thoughts from their windshield.
Yes, while staring at a white wall, combined with daily recapitulation.
Right. Recapitulation. For anyone unfamiliar, that's a practice in these traditions. It involves reviewing past events to sort of reclaim energy that might have gotten lost or stuck there.
Exactly. It sounds like a pretty intense practice, all told.
It really does.
And this whole thing raises a really important question. What's the difference between just, stopping the internal dialogue, the chatter, and achieving what the source calls inner silence?
Okay, yeah. Is there a difference?
A big one, apparently. The source clarifies that this inner silence actually underlies all existence. It connects to something called the will of the dark sea of awareness,
The dark sea of awareness.
which you could maybe understand as the fundamental, all-encompassing consciousness. The source says it supports the entire universe, and it's described as a direct, nonverbal touch,
Mhm.
a connection.
Okay, wow. So it's not just about quieting your mind like in meditation, maybe. It's more like connecting to a fundamental reality, a pure, unmediated connection to existence itself.
That seems to be the idea.
Yeah, that's a huge leap in understanding. Does the source suggest other practical ways to deepen that connection beyond that initial exercise? Or maybe what its immediate effects might be on just, everyday life?
It stresses consistency with practices like the recapitulation and having focused intent. That helps. But the true deepening, it seems, often comes through these direct energetic encounters,
Uh-huh.
which actually brings us to a really compelling personal account from the source material.
Okay, yeah. I found this part fascinating. It's a firsthand account of someone's really persistent journey to actually perceive a flyer. Can you walk us through that experience and this feeling they had, this fear that was not their own?
certainly. So after months of really focused searching, the Spiegel says they eventually broke through these sort of foggy membranes or clouds that were blocking their perception.
Okay.
And what they saw then was a small creature described as resembling some small demon with bat
A
wings.
demon with bat wings. Right. And this is where it gets really, really insightful. The fear they felt.
Wasn't theirs. It was its fear. The moment this creature realized it had been seen, it just fled in terror.
Wow. So it was afraid of being seen. What happened then after it took off?
Well, this is the interesting part. The speaker's own perception became, quote, gigantic. It expanded for many kilometers around.
Kilometers.
Yeah, they describe seeing through their house walls, perceiving the forest outside, every living creature in it. And crucially, they realized their own desires, their own movements, were actually mixed with the desires of the flyer.
Mixed with its desires.
Yeah. And this direct experience, seeing the predator, seeing it flee, allowed them to start moving from that state of inner silence we were talking about.
So the act of simply seeing it directly, without maybe the filter of fear initially, that actually expanded their own capabilities and
Yes.
started to free them from its influence.
That's what the account suggests.
Yeah,
It's a powerful idea.
it really is. And the source describes another encounter later, doesn't it? An
Yeah.
easier one. While the speaker was doing recapitulation inside a box.
That's right, a specific technique. This time, they recount being able to easily penetrate the flyer's defenses.
So it was different the second time.
Very different. Moving directly from that inner silence, they were then able to exit the box and actually walk. But it was incredibly difficult, they said, like learning to walk all over again.
Mm.
They described using a bundle of fibers from their navel area. It's a specific energetic technique in this tradition, and they experienced a kind of 360-degree perception, feeling the darkness of night, the elasticity, the tension of everything around them.
Wow. This whole journey, moving from inner silence, experiencing that kind of perception, it really sounds like a complete recalibration of reality.
It does, doesn't it?
But if that kind of liberation is possible, what accounts for our usual, much more limited perception? This brings us to another key concept from your sources, the grooves of time,
Exactly, the grooves of time.
which might be the very things keeping our awareness constrained.
Precisely, that's how they're described. Strange, cylindrical depressions that exist around our energy cocoons.
Cylindrical depressions.
Yeah, and they're said to be made of infinite edges and angles. Apparently, they appeared along with the flyers and are designed specifically to catch your attention.
So they basically trap our perception, keep it focused on like a narrow band of reality.
That's the implication. The source even mentions that powerful seers, like Don Juan Matus's group, apparently got stuck within these grooves.
Really? Even them?
Yeah, which prevented what they call freedom of perception and reaching the third attention. That's a state of, expanded awareness beyond our normal waking state.
So the implication is we're all within these grooves right now. That's why our shared reality, even this conversation, is possible.
That's what the source seems to suggest. Our consensus reality is sort of defined by these grooves.
Okay. Now, there's also a story in the source described as fantastic only for human beings who have forgotten themselves. It's about these ancient, powerful orange beings.
Yes, the orange beings. Beings of sixth density awareness, which implies, incredibly high vibrational energy. And they supposedly lived inside a central sun.
Inside a sun.
But their self-satisfied power, the story goes, ultimately attracted the flyers, which were described as small black balls.
Small black balls.
Not winged demons this time.
Apparently not in this context. These balls penetrated the sun's protective layer, causing these powerful orange warriors to fall into pits.
In the tits.
Yeah, pits where they lost their glow, their energy, and experienced a kind of energetic death. The speaker recounting this actually says they jumped into one of these pits themselves and lost consciousness.
Wow. So this whole story, it serves as a kind of metaphor maybe for how even really powerful, evolved entities can be affected by these subtle predators.
Exactly. Despite their strength, it just underscores how pervasive this influence might be, according to this worldview.
Okay. But it doesn't stop there, does it?
No. The source then reveals that the flyers themselves fled from an even greater predator.
Oh, great. Something worse than the flyers. Apparently, the speaker perceived it as a gigantic purple cloth or sheet.
Purple sheet, that's abstract. What's the difference between this thing and the flyers we've been discussing?
Well, the key distinction is that this greater entity completely consumes its prey, both energetically and physically. It leaves nothing.
Nothing at all. That's terrifying.
It is.
Yeah.
And it also creates these things called ring-shaped projections of awareness that have no assemblage point.
Okay, assemblage point in these teachings, that's the point in our energy field that organizes how we perceive reality, right?
Correct. So having no assemblage point suggests these entities exist beyond the usual constraints of, say, death or incarnation that humans experience. It's a whole different and, yeah, terrifying level of predatory existence.
This idea of hidden forces, unseen predators, it brings us straight to concepts like the ego and what humans have maybe historically called demons. The sources claim the ego is nurtured by the flyer.
Hmm.
How does that connection work?
Well, the speaker argues that terms like demons or other frightening images we might have in folklore or religion are simply labels humanity has used for thousands of years to describe what they perceive energetically.
Okay.
The crucial point they make is that humans, especially young children, inherently see energy directly. But we learn to split the description of the world.
Split the description, meaning we learn to conform to the shared, agreed-upon reality. We suppress that direct energetic sight.
Exactly. We buy into the consensus reality.
So if we happen to briefly perceive something outside that shared description, something energetically raw, that's when the flyer steps in. Is that the idea?
Precisely. When someone's perception momentarily goes beyond the ordinary, the flyer takes that raw energetic input, the source calls them fibers, and it creates a familial image of perception. It basically puts a costume on the raw energy.
A costume.
Yeah. And that manufactured image, often frightening, is what causes fear. And the fear is what the flyer apparently feeds on, allowing it to drain energy.
Okay, that makes a kind of disturbing sense. The story about the speaker and their two friends in the night forest seems like a really vivid example of this.
It really is.
The friend's fear transformed this strange energetic formation described as what? Copper-colored bent stripes with glowing spots.
That's the one.
Their fear turned that into a terrifying, huge, frightening man.
Right. And this phantom then drained their energy. One friend even had memory loss afterwards. But the speaker, who crucially remained unafraid, only saw the raw energy, the copper stripes.
Wow, so that really highlights it. Direct perception without the overlay of fear or these preconceived images is the key to avoiding that energy loss.
It powerfully illustrates that, yes, when we impose that costume of fear derived from our conditioning or the flyer's influence, we become vulnerable.
Okay, so finally, the source tackles a pretty fundamental question here.
Hmm.
Are these flyers parasites or are they symbiotes?
Right. And the answer given is, well, a pretty grim form of symbiosis.
Grim how?
It's compared to a spider wasp laying larvae in a spider,
Yeah.
or a parasite controlling an ant, or even chickens with a meat store.
Chickens with a meat store.
Yeah.
Okay, that paints a truly stark, unsettling picture of control, extreme control.
Yeah.
Does the source explore any ways to mitigate this? Any counter strategies? Or is it just presented as this inescapable reality? Because they apparently leave us with just enough energy not to die, weave their own structures into us.
It definitely sounds like a very one-sided relationship.
It does.
But while it's presented as deeply, deeply ingrained, you could argue that the entire body of the source material and all the practices it describes, that is the counter strategy. It's the act of perceiving them directly, stopping the internal dialogue, learning to move from inner silence. These are the mechanisms proposed for reclaiming that energy and autonomy. It's not easy, clearly, but the path is laid out.
Wow. Okay. That was a truly immersive deep dive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Into these concepts of hidden predators, the nature of our own awareness, and the profound importance of inner silence.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is. But you've heard how the simple act of seeing these energies for what they are, rather than through that lens of fear or these preconceived images, how that can dramatically shift your experience, even expand your perception.
Yeah, the core takeaway, I think, is that our perception is an incredibly powerful tool. And just understanding these potential unseen influences might empower you to reclaim your energy, experience reality more directly, maybe get beyond those grooves of time that might be limiting us.
Right. It's about recognizing the subtle mechanisms, maybe, that shape our reality, and then choosing consciously to perceive beyond them. So here's a thought, maybe, for you to chew on. If our perception, and maybe even our very desires, can be influenced by these unseen forces, what would it truly mean to move solely from your own inner silence? What new freedoms, what possibilities might that unlock in your daily life? Keep exploring And thank you for taking this deep dive with us today.